All right, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please silence all cell phones and note that this meeting is being taped by FCTV. If there's any private party recording this hearing, please step up to the podium and request permission. And I'll introduce the staff and the board. On my far right is Mark Finneran. Next in is Scott Peterson. To my right is Frank Duffy, the clerk. My name's Suzanne Murphy, I'm chair. To my left is James Morse, vice chair. Tony Pertucci, an associate. We have Noreen Stockman, our zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, an office assistant. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the state zoning statutes as well as the town zoning bylaws and reviewing and voting on each application. All decisions are made through the public hearing process. Our goal is to hear testimony from the applicants and the public and to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to closing the hearing and reaching a decision. Number one, to begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement for each hearing and read pertinent information from the file. Two, the applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation. Time may be extended by vote of the board. Three, the board will then question the applicant. And four, the public will be invited to comment. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes and be strictly related to the proposal. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair and should come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone. It will amplify your voice and record audio for the FCTV viewers. And we also have at the beginning of each hearing, if anyone wants to make a public comment, not on anything that's on tonight's agenda, but you're welcome to come up and have a public comment. Anybody want to come up? And we'll start our hearings. I'm going to move one out of order. If anyone has an agenda, it's 118-18, Blue Flag Development, just because it may be quick, so I think we'll move along. Do we need a vote on that?
Yeah. Move to take it out of order.
I'll second. All right, motion and a second. Did you guys get that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Okay, so Blue Flag.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this case because I participated as town council in the permitting with the town manager and the Board of Selectmen, so appoint someone to sit in for me.
Tony, you're in. Great, thank you.
I'm in.
Hi.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Ian Urquhart. I'm from the law firm Nutter, McLennan & Fish in Boston, and I'm counsel for the applicant. So we're here today because the initial special permit for the auto campground contained some conditions relative to staffing at certain occupancy levels. You know, below 30% required less staffing, and above 30% occupancy required more staffing. But so I understand that the condition was put in there because it was unclear how much staffing was going to be available at the time. But since that time, we always have a staff person there. So whenever there's a guest at the auto camp, somebody from the staff is on site to manage that. So there's no, I think it was 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. while someone was there. Someone will always be there when someone's on site. So under condition 4 of the special permit, auto camp is required to appear before the board and give an update on the occupancy, and just I think it was a mechanism just to let the board know that we were complying with the staffing requirements under the conditions. But as we see it, I should also mention that Jan Bloom, from the general manager from Auto Camp, is also here with me. So if you have any questions about the operation, he can do that. But at the end of the day, we always have somebody there when there are guests. So I think that should satisfy, the board's concerns about occupancy and staffing.
Condition 4, got it. Anybody have any questions up here?
Not I.
So if there's no one staying at the camp, you don't have anybody there? Because you just said 3 times that if somebody's
Yes.
there,
Yes.
you have somebody there. So if nobody is staying there, is there anybody on site?
So,
You'll have to come up.
You got to
Yeah.
Thanks.
sorry. Hi, I'm Jan Blum, the general manager. So, in the off-season right now, it's very quiet. So, during from Monday through Friday, most weeks from January through March, we're closed, so we'll have maintenance people there during the day, but there's nobody there at night. We close the front gate, and it's closed. On the weekends, we'll have somebody, when there's guests there, we'll have somebody staffed 24 hours a day in the lobby. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
No further
Mark,
questions.
you all set?
Actually, I drove by this weekend, didn't I see a sign in the entrance that said special event?
You know what?
What was special about this
So-
week?
So I don't know if it's a great idea, but they put a sign, the maintenance people are there. They don't want people just driving in, so they have the gate open a little bit, and they just put a sign just to keep, people from driving through while they're there, and they're not really monitoring things, but there's no special event going on.
Need to get a keep out sign.
It kept you out though, Mark, didn't it?
I had no interest in going in.
Any questions down this end?
What is the specific relief that they're asking for tonight?
What is the specific relief was the question?
There's no relief, it's just a report to the
report
board, but, you know, pursuant to the special
Condition
permit.
4.
And if
So I think also, before the board, you were asking them to come back essentially annually, so what should also be before the board is, if you find that they're in compliance, and we do have a reply from Board of Health and the Police Department that they've found no issues, that I think it would be reasonable for the board to remove the annual requirement for them to return.
that was going to be my next statement, question.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to report in writing or instead of that, if that's,
And you're still going before the Board of Health every year, so someone's covering it.
yes.
Do you have anything, Tony?
I'm not sure I understand. If the board put this in as a condition, it was just a conditional condition that would only last for a short period of time? Was there a particular reason why? Because the board wasn't sure how you were going to manage this? And why should we not, just because nothing bad has happened so far? Why should we not continue this? I know it's a pain in the neck, but why should we not continue this?
Well, I suppose our solution to that would be to submit a report in writing about the occupancy and the staffing, and, you know, we could communicate, I suppose, outside of a board meeting, you know, we can submit official documents to the board so that, so you have it for the
option would
record.
be to not report at all going forward, or report it in writing once per year. That's all I wanted to
So
understand.
I guess I would also perhaps help out, maybe, because I don't think you were on the board at the time this went
definitely was
through.
not.
This was brand new. There had formerly been a campground there, but this was, you know, in keeping, but a pretty different use. And so because nothing had actually happened on the site, the board was trying to build in conditions so that we would make sure we could kind of check and make sure everything was fine. And they did have a few wrinkles initially with the Board of Health, which is actually obviously the Board of Health's jurisdiction. But I think the intent was, where it was so new, we wanted to make sure we capture something if there was a problem when they first opened. But they've been, what, 2 years now-ish?
Give or take 2 years. Oh, I'm sorry, apologies. I'll let you in.
I think this is our fifth.
I think it's at least 4, yeah.
4 years,
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess the only reason why I brought it up was we had a great unknown before us, and now they're a regular operating business,
So
so.
no complaints from the neighborhood?
So, Madam Chair, if I may, my recollection of this issue, there were numerous comments from abutters in the past.
Right.
Primarily concerning enforcement issues, and the board referred them to the enforcement agent to deal with those. But I think they were somewhat considered, which is why we were not willing to waive the condition at that time. If there's no issues of enforcement, I don't have a problem with requiring them to come back. I just would want to make sure that the board has some ability to recall them if we start having problems with the
Well, I
operational
think they
issues.
do report to the Board of Health, still.
And the complaints were in the summertime, obviously.
Yes.
As well as the hearing, so one wouldn't expect to hear any complaints this evening anyway.
Well, the issue too, and I don't mean to prolong this, but the issue too is there is a fence that separates the residential homes on the other side of it from this site. And so it could be prone, if it's not managed properly, I'm not saying it's not, if we're not managed properly, to be an issue to those folks behind it. As one member, I don't have a problem with them not reporting every year, but if there should be an every couple year, 3-year report, I don't know.
Or if we get significant, through the zoning administrator, I would suggest if we get complaints or so on concerning the management operations of this condition, as long as the board, I think, reserves the right to bring the applicant back just to address issues, I don't have a problem. I don't necessarily think we need to make them appear every year, as long as the reports are actually being submitted and there's no complaints, zoning complaints.
But that's a triggering mechanism, to your point. No complaints, that they're continuing to file all the reports in a timely fashion. And, okay, I just wanted to understand the basis.
Anybody from the public want to speak on the glamping over in Sippy? Everybody's all set? You want to make a motion?
Oh, well,
Well, I thought you were kind of wrapping it up, that's why I asked.
I'm wrapping it up. I just want a little board discussion.
Oh, is there further discussion?
No. I just wanted discussion about whether or not they wanted, what the board's appetite was as to we want to let them
I
off.
feel
or
we're
just-
fine myself. I feel if we have an issue, we
Yeah, I'm
can
good.
go through the Board of Health and ask them. We can still, he's still going to do a written report.
Fair enough. Nope.
Well, that was an option he offered versus coming here. So it was
Yeah.
either come here, not come here at all, not report at all, come here once per year, or have a written report once per year, or do nothing. So you have a couple options, and I don't think he needs, as I sit here right now, it's a good record. I don't see that he has to come here every year.
Yeah. I agree.
Great.
I'll make a motion that the applicant does not have to report to us in person every year, but we would like a report.
So
Just a short,
perhaps once per year, January of each year,
Yeah.
they send us a written update.
yeah. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Want a second for me?
I'll second.
There you
For a
go.
friendly amendment,
Sure.
the board reserves the right to request it to have an in-person meeting.
Everybody's got the motion? And we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Great, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, we have 10824, 76 Minot Road, Murray trustee. They don't do it. Being picked on.
Madam Chair, before I read the public notice and the other information, I sat out in the audience during that last discussion about the auto camp, and the noise of that heating element up there kind of drowns out your conversation. It's kind of hard to hear you out there.
Okay.
So just be aware of that.
Appears to be being addressed.
Lean's on it.
Okay, so this is hearing 108 of 24, Suzanne Murray, trustee, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240, 10.2A and 240, 11.3A4 of the Code of Falmouth to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming single-family dwelling located at 76 Minot Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. The property is in a residential C zoning district. The appropriate sections of the zoning bylaw are as reported in the notice, section 240, 10.2A, 240, 11.3A4, to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The flood zone, it's in AE 14. It's also in a velocity zone 15. Has no record of previous zoning decisions on the property. The lot is 6,583 square feet in a zoning district that currently requires a minimum of 40,000 square feet. There's 80 feet of frontage in the zoning district, which requires 100 feet of frontage. It's a public right-of-way, that's Minot Road, and also the side road there is the public road. Current lot coverage by structure is 22.6%. It will be reduced to 20.2%. The limit is 20, so special permit is needed for the excess. Lot coverage by structure, parking, and paving is 31%. The increase to 35.7%. The limit is 40. The structure is non-conforming because of the setback to the street, where it's 19 feet, 25 feet is required. The height of the building is 21.6 feet, and it will be increased, or the proposal is to increase it to 34 feet, 10 3/4 inches, pretty close to the 35-foot limit. Engineering has given us a referral for requesting a driveway permit for any work that affects the public way. They want us to be alert to stormwater runoff, and the Board of Health has no issues at this time. There's a sufficient septic for a 4-bedroom. The Conservation Commission has issued an order of condition on November 13th, 2024, with an approval. The Water Department wants the meter in the home. The building commissioner has, in his referral, required a height certificate because of the fact that the building is going so close to the maximum allowed by zoning. Fire department has no issues. The assessors have no issue, and that's it. We have no letters of opposition or support on file.
Take it away, Attorney Clower.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Kevin Clower. I am an attorney here in town, and I am before you representing Sue and Eric Murray, the owners of 76 Minot Road. Mrs. Murray is here with us this evening. They are seeking permission to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming dwelling and associated structures on this site and replace it with a single-family home. 76 Minot is located at the southern terminus of Mara Vista Avenue, just east of Bristol Beach. The lot, as was noted by Mr. Duffy, is 6,563 square feet in a residential C zoning district, and the majority of the lot is in an AE 14 flood zone. Presently, there's a 5-bedroom single-family dwelling with a detached garage. The overall footprint by structures is 1,482 square feet. The existing structures are non-conforming. The dwelling is non-conforming to front yard setback, being 20.3 feet where 25 is required. The garage is non-conforming to the side yard setback to the north, being 4 feet where 10 is required. It's also non-conforming to lot coverage by structures, being 22.6% in a district where 20% is allowed by right and up to 25 by special permit, but there is no special permit of record on this property. This house was built in approximately 1934, but it is not in a historic district or on the town's list of historically significant structures. So the applicants recently purchased this property and are looking to make this their permanent residence now, but the house is in need of some significant repair, both cosmetically and structurally. Given its location in a flood zone, as I said, in AE 14, the scope of repairs really necessitates compliance with flood zone standards. It'll constitute what's considered a substantial improvement under both our zoning bylaw and the FEMA regulations. That will require an elevation of the structure, so we must raise the existing structure and rebuild new in compliance with those requirements. And that requirement specifically is that all habitable space and mechanicals be located at least 1 foot above the flood zone elevation. So in this case, in AE 14, it requires the first floor of habitable space be at elevation 15, which is approximately 8 feet above grade. The applicant's proposal reduces the clutter on the lot. It eliminates the existing detached garage. There will be a garage included as part of the primary dwelling, which also reduces the need for outdoor parking. It reduces the number of bedrooms. Currently there's 5. It's being reduced to 4 with a new 4-bedroom Title V system to be installed. The existing nonconformities are all effectively eliminated. The side yard setback to the north is eliminated as it's improving from 4.1 feet to 10.3 feet. The front yard setback to Minot is eliminated as a nonconformity. It's going from 20.3 to 26.9 feet, and it's also 28.3 feet to Mara Vista on the western side. The lot coverage by structure is being reduced from 22.6% down to 20.2%. This amount is allowable by special permit. It's an improvement over the existing percentage, and with the issuance of the special permit, it's effectively eliminated as a nonconformity. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, given this location, it will comply with the FEMA requirements. Given the existing nonconformities, this does require a special permit pursuant to 240-10.2A and 240-11.3A4 of your zoning bylaw. Under 240-10.2A, pre-existing nonconforming structures may be changed by special permit, provided they're not substantially more detrimental than what exists. You're asked to consider the standards of 240-12.1 and whether or not the alteration creates any new dimensional nonconformities, impairs views and vistas, and reasonably conforms to the neighborhood. Here, there's no new nonconformities created. All of the existing nonconformities are improved and eliminated. Many of those requirements I just described are overlapped in 240-11.3A4. That section allows for lot coverage by structure to exceed 20% in the RC zoning district, but does require a special permit. There, the board is asked to consider the size and height of the structure in relation to the neighborhood, the effects of shadow, the impacts of views and vistas from public ways, and the effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. I thought I was getting applause. I was very excited. Wait till the end, please. The proposed house is larger than what exists, and as proposed would be among the more prominent in the area. But while taller, ironically, it's below the average footprint and gross floor area. It's certainly in character with homes along Minot. The applicant is certainly agreeable to a height certification, as was noted in the building referral. There's limited, given this location and the siting of it, there's limited impacts of shadowing or views and vistas from public ways, and it's actually cited specifically to minimize impacts on nearby homes. It's certainly an improvement over the existing conditions. There's no negative effect on nitrogen. In fact, it's an improvement, as there's a reduction in the number of bedrooms and flow for the proposal. The project represents a significant improvement over the existing conditions. The existing nonconformities, as I've mentioned, are all improved and eliminated. Again, front yard setback is eliminated. It's conforming to both Mara Vista and Minot. The side yard setback to the north is eliminated as a nonconformity. Lot coverage by structures both reduced and eliminated as a nonconformity with the issuance of a special permit, and this will comply with the flood zone requirements. There's no new dimensional nonconformities, no adverse effects, and certainly none that would overbalance the benefits that I've outlined. There's nothing about this proposal substantially more detrimental than what exists. I believe this meets all the standards of 240-10.2A, as well as 240-11.3A4 and 240-12.1E. For these reasons, I would ask that the board grant the special permit, and I would, of course, be happy to address any questions you might have at this time.
Tony, I'm going to go to the left. Want to start off?
Sure, wherever you like. I think it's a wonderful change. Fits in beautifully. I just have really one question. When I was walking around the site, I saw some stakes in the back right corner that appeared to say spa. And I couldn't find that on the, is a spa being put in? Or?
They might put a hot tub on the patio, but that's not considered a structure for the purpose of the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, I just didn't understand what it was. Other than that, I have no other questions, Madam Chair.
Attorney Clower, no, looks like a very nice project. You're eliminating all the nonconformities, bringing it into harmony with the special permit, as you indicated. The only concern I had is 34 feet, 10 3/4 inches, but that can be conditioned, and I'm not going to penalize somebody because they're coming into flood zone compliance, so.
Yeah. I mean, when you got to go up 8 feet to start, it makes it difficult.
Well, the other is, given there's been no opposition, I think it fits in rather well with the neighborhood, so thank you, no questions.
Frank, you have any questions?
No.
Scott?
Could you just pull up the front elevation, Attorney Clower, please?
The flood elevation?
Front.
Oh, front elevation, yes.
Must have been all that applause.
Right to my head, unfortunately. So this was looking from the south, this is looking from the west, so this is looking at it from Mara Vista, and this is looking at it from Minot.
Now, as Mr. Morris mentioned, getting rid of the nonconformities, it's a nice upgrade to what you have there, so no further questions. It's a good project.
I was just wondering, when this was coming, I drive by every day, and there's been stakes there for,
Yeah.
it seems at least a year. And it certainly needs some freshening up.
I think, I was looking at it because I drove by today, and I actually think that the architecture here works really well with the architecture just across,
Across the street.
across Mara Vista. I think it's going to look real nice once that's done.
Well, it's going to take much to make it look better than what's there now.
I have a question. How are you reducing the flow?
because we're going from 5 bedrooms down to 4. So,
But there's a room, isn't there another room over the garage or something like that now?
so the assessors have this as a 5-bedroom home, and we're going down to a 4-bedroom home.
Okay. So that's it, okay. Anybody else have any questions before I go to the public?
No, there was the bedroom in the existing garage, right?
Yeah. Well, there's,
Being torn down.
yep, that's coming down, so.
So that's how you're going from.
Well, we
5
have, if we look at this is the garage. There's a room in the garage here, so if you count bedrooms on the existing plan, there's a master, 1 here, 2, 3, 4, and then this is a 5th that constitutes a bedroom by Title V standards. So it's going from 5 down to 4. We're only proposing 4.
Okay.
Do we have to make that door wider on that garage thing?
That's the existing plan.
That's the one that's going away?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah, yeah.
thought, okay. All right, does anybody from the public have any comments on this project? Quiet group. The applause. I didn't get any. Anyway, anybody want to make a motion up here?
Motion to close.
Motion to close, I'll second. Any discussion before we close? All those in favor of closing? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Motion to approve the conditions?
Second.
We have a motion to approve. In a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, none.
Findings and conditions.
Findings.
Findings. Let's do them.
Okay, we have an existing non-conforming structure. The proposed structure will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than existing structures or uses. The proposed structure will lessen, actually eliminate zoning nonconformities. It will not impair views or vistas, and it reasonably conforms to the average dimensions found in the neighborhood. With respect to lot coverage by structure, 20% is the zoning maximum, but 25% is allowed by special permit. We find that the size, height of the structure, proposed structure, relates to neighborhood averages. There's no adverse effect on neighborhood property from shadows. There's no reported impacts on views or vistas from the public ways. And the Board of Health has advised us that they have approved a septic system and are satisfied with the effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. With respect to the conditions for a special permit, we determined that the site is adequate for the proposed use. The site is suitable for the proposed use. There's no evidence of negative impact on traffic flow and safety. There's no evidence of neighborhood visual character, views or vistas. There's adequate sewage disposal provided in the plans. There's adequate utilities, and there's no adverse effect on affordable housing, no letters in opposition, and no opposition at the public hearing. Also, the maximum height is 35 feet. This is proposed to be 34 feet, 10 3/4 inches. The building commissioner, in his referral, requests a height certificate, which I think probably requires an engineer. Okay.
And there was a comp sheet.
Yes.
Did he have that comp sheet?
There was.
Yeah.
Concom has ordered a approval and order of conditions. The proposed improvement will bring the structure in compliance with FEMA flood zone compliance. Special permit will bring the property into compliance with the lot coverage regulations. It's the only other additions I have, Madam Chairman.
Yeah. Conditions. All boards. We have conservation. Quite a big one in
Per
there.
plans,
Per plans,
height certed framing.
height certification, driveway permit.
Standard hours.
Work hours. No other structures on the lot. Well, I guess, no, they can't.
I would just ask if we could do that without approval from the board or administratively, because we're only at 20.2.
Okay. Strike that one. Anybody else have any other conditions? That's it. Noreen, you think of anything?
So I guess I would just suggest, they are showing a shell driveway And I guess the question is, if that were to be paved, if there would be some issue with total lot coverage. So I had put a note just recommending that the shell portion of the driveway stay as a pervious driveway, so that they don't exceed their total lot coverage by structure, parking, paving.
That's not covered under per plan? Just want to make a side note, kind of?
I just think it's
Yeah,
a value,
no,
just to
I
reinforce.
agree. Yep.
You could add that as a finding, just to say, hey, this is how we came to the lot coverage. Any additional needs to come back for modification of the special permit.
There's about 283 feet of wiggle room before we get up to that 40%, but I think per plan and calling it out is perfectly fine.
Your math's getting pretty good now?
Oh, a calculator.
Okay, I think we're all set, right? We voted on it ahead of the
Findings, but
findings.
move to confirm after the findings.
Second.
All those in favor of confirming? Aye. Opposed, none. All right, so I think we're good.
Did you vote the actual decision or just confirming the findings? We're good?
We'll vote again.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think we're fine. We're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys very much. We
Thanks.
appreciate your time. Yay, applause. Okay.
Oh, yeah, see, now you're going to let it go to his head now.
Right?
He wanted it, he wanted it.
It's like Jeb Bush.
Thanks, enjoy. Looks
Have a
like
great night,
good
guys.
project. All right, next up, we have 4 Sandwich Road.
I'll let everybody leave the room.
Which is JJEC LLC.
This is application 10924, JJEC Development LLC. They've applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a modification of special permit 08316 pursuant to sections 240.6.2B and 240.12.1 of the Code of Falmouth to allow 10 apartments through 5 duplex buildings. The subject property is located at 4 Sandwich Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. The property is located in a B2 zoning district. It is in a Great Pond Coastal Overlay District. It's in, the notation, it's in flood zone X. There is a previous zoning Board of Appeals decision applicable to the property, which is referenced in the public notice at 083-16, which allows for the conversion of a former Eastern Bank into a Dunkin' Donuts fast food restaurant. The subject lot is 86,827 square feet, which conforms to zoning. Street frontage is 335.9 feet, which conforms to zoning. Sandwich Road is a public way. The lot coverage by structure is presently 3.48%. It will be increased by the proposed structures to 13.42%, where the limit is 40% in a B2 zoning district. Lot coverage by structure, parking, and paving is currently 32.69%. It will be increased to 47.58%, and the limit is 70% in the B2 zoning district. There's no noted nonconformities. We have a detailed report from engineering, which runs 13 pages, which I do not intend to read here tonight, but we'll expect Mr. Ament will address the issues in the engineering referral during his presentation. The Board of Health has approved an alternate technology system for the entire property, including the restaurant. We'll have more information on that in the presentation. That approval was dated September 16, 2024. Conservation has no issues. The Water Department has reported that each individual apartment or each individual unit must have a separate water meter. The Building Department has requested that there be directional signs to direct traffic to the queue for the restaurants so that there's no conflict with the residential traffic. Fire Department has no comment at this time. Now, the Planning Board, we do not have a site plan review, and is that true, Mr. Ament? There is no site plan review at this time? from the planning board?
You have no site plan review decision. We've met twice with the planning board, including this week, for site plan review, and actually had a meeting, Mr. Bunker and myself, with the town planners today to go over site plan review issues.
Okay, so we'll expect one sometime?
I expect them to vote a decision on January 28.
All right. We have no letters of opposition in the file. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chairman and members of the board. As you know, but for the record, I'm Bob Ament, Falmouth attorney. I represent the applicant, JJEC Development LLC. Eric Eskander is the Chief Operating Officer, the CEO of JJEC, and he's here in the audience. He's been at each of the planning board meetings as well. Plans for this project were developed by BSS Design. Tom Bunker is here with me to present and/or to ask any, to answer any questions that you have. The architecture for the project was done by Keenan and Kenny Architects. John Keenan is in the audience, and is very familiar with the property. You're probably all familiar with the property to some extent. It is the site of Dunkin' Donuts restaurant across the street, across Sandwich Road, from the school administration building, which on the aerial photograph is this building, and this is the site. It's not quite 2 acres, it's 1.993 acres. It's a little less than 2 acres, and that's really significant only with respect to density, and I'll come to that. In 2016, the Eastern Bank that had a branch in this building was allowed to sell the property to JJEC for conversion of the building from a bank to a Dunkin' Donuts store. And the Zoning Board of Appeals, because Dunkin' Donuts is fast food, had to and did grant a special permit for that. The planning board approved site plan review, and the bank was converted to its present use, which is the Dunkin' Donuts store. Now, JJEC, or its parent Cadet Enterprises, operates some 58 Dunkin' Donuts in southeast New England. It's a pretty big outfit. They own some of their properties and probably lease most of them. In the summer, they employ as many as 1,000 people to take care of their stores. And they became aware increasingly of the difficulty that their employees have with housing on Cape Cod. They have never done a housing project. Their intention is to create some workforce housing. Some of it may be occupied by their employees, and some of it would be available to the public to make sure it's filled. It is for rental only. No intent to sell the units. And that's significant in terms of financing, in terms of return on investment, looking long-term here. Their business is Dunkin' Donuts stores. That's their primary interest, continues to be their primary interest in this property. But this is 2 acres. This housing fits. They see an opportunity to do something good for their employees, for the public. The town needs apartments like this. These are relatively small. It's in the right zoning district. So, as I said, fast food, Dunkin' Donuts has been allowed, and the zoning bylaw specifically allows mixed residential and commercial use as well. Now, we've talked a lot about using those words about the Mr. Cod zoning district. This is not a Mr. Cod property. As it turns out, the Mr. Cod district ends right here. We abut the Mr. Cod overlay district. We are not in it. The town sewer, which is, of course, an element of Mr. Cod, ends right where I'm pointing, right here, at the property line. We are not permitted to extend it. When the permitting was done in 2016, and I haven't gone back and checked how this happened, either the plans then showed that this business-owned property and this business property and this business-owned property next door, which is in residential use, that's the end of the business district. But those two properties were not included in the Mr. Cod district, and they're not included in the sewer district. That's an issue because the property, besides being in a B2 district, is in a coastal pond overlay district for Great Pond. And that explains why we have a state-of-the-art nitro denitrification septic system planned in order to meet the requirements of the district. We're actually going to not only have the housing connected to that, but abandon the existing septic system for the Dunkin' Donuts store and connect the store also to that denitrification system. We're also going to reduce the number of seats in the restaurant from 26 to 18. Most of the business is through the drive-through anyway, but that reduces the technical requirements for sewage capacity, and the net is that the calculations, which have been prepared by BSS Design and submitted to the town, show an actual reduction in nitrogen flow, and therefore we satisfy the coastal pond overlay district. Besides the fact that almost everything from this property south to the water is going to be sewered, so the Great Pond is probably the future of it in terms of nitrogen loading is probably pretty good. But we're not going to be contributing to any problem as a result of this project. In a business district, and Business 2 is the most intense district of, we have Main Street, which is Business 1, but otherwise B2 is for more intense business development. 6 units per acre of housing are permitted by right in a mixed-use project. So that is 6 units plus the mixed use. By special permit, provided that the Board of Appeals makes certain findings. The board must find that the public good will be served. We think that the creation of apartments like this for rental workforce housing, we think that there's a great need for it. I think everybody thinks that. The business zone will not be adversely affected. This housing at a density of 10 units, 2 acres is 5 units per acre. 6 is what's allowed. On the next property, 20 units per acre would be allowed by right because it's in a Mr. Cod zoning district. So first, public good will be served, business zone will not be adversely affected, and 3, business uses allowed in this district will not be noxious to multifamily use. Well, given the size of this property and the layout of the proposed plan, I think you'll easily be able to find that that's true. So let me pull up the plans and walk you through them. This is the existing conditions plan, and it shows the Dunkin' Donuts building. It shows the existing single curb cut for the property. There's presently a one-way traffic flow that gets around to the drive-through over here. You've probably all, in preparation for tonight's hearing, actually gone to the site, and if you've driven around here, this is a really comfortably wide drive-through to be able to get around it. There's a requirement for 7 stacking spaces. That gets you to about here where it's shown. At times, the queue for the donuts drive-through extends farther. Neighbors have told us that on occasion they've seen traffic into the street. We're not changing the Dunkin' Donuts that's already been approved, except to reduce the number of seats and to connect it to a denitrification septic system. But this is the existing site. It's beautifully maintained in terms of landscaping by the owner. So that was existing conditions and the proposal. And by the way, we initially submitted a plan that showed 3 buildings with a total of 11 apartments. We subsequently revised the plan, revised the application to reduce the number of units to 10 and make them all duplexes. So that's what this plan shows. And we have, of course, the architectural plans for the project to show you. I'm going to skip, however, to a landscaping plan, just because it shows everything on that plan, but it's a little more exciting in color. And this is not the entire property because it's enlarged. This doesn't show the Dunkin' Donuts store, but except for some parking spaces to be put on the far side of that, primarily for staff. There are no changes to that building or to the proposed use. So here's what we have. The 5 duplexes, these are 2-story buildings. The maximum height it's technically different because you're measuring from different grades, but these are 28-foot tall buildings, well below what's allowed. And as Mr. Duffy pointed out earlier, the total project, the structures are, I think it was 13.42% lot coverage with these new structures. 40% is allowed. The total lot coverage, including paving and the structures, is about 43%, I think it was. Sorry, 47.58%, but 70% is what's allowed. So this is not an intense project. One of the neat things about what we've done as a result of the Planning Board's review, which is ongoing, was to add storage units to every unit. So there's a 45-square-foot shed. It's not really a shed. It's in the sense that it's part of the construction of the building. If I show you the architectural plans, you'll see that this is not a detached shed up against the building. This is part of the architecturally designed structure. And that not only provides some space for household goods and children's outdoor toys, small bikes and so on, but it means that there's actually enclosed, private, locked storage for anybody who has a bike. So that's really a big improvement. There is and it's suggested by the Planning Board. They didn't suggest how we do the storage, but this was the solution. And we also added coverings over every entrance so that there's a covered entrance with a downlight in the ceiling of the entrance. So those are the lights, down lights. And the only other lighting are these 8-foot tall poles that are shown here. And this plan shows it illustrates the illumination of that lighting. So it's all on the business side, if you will, towards the Dunkin' Donuts, away from abutting residential properties. There are no bright lights anywhere along the back of the building. At the suggestion of the Planning Board, we've created a play area entirely fenced in here for any children who might live in these apartments. We're going to reduce the size of that play area as a result of comments at the last meeting. We're going to reduce it somewhat so that we can, we're going to pull the fence. There's fencing all along the property. It connects to existing fencing all along the north side. We're going to reduce this, move the fence in somewhat to provide, to save more existing vegetation and to have room for some additional buffer plantings between these residences and the abutting residences. So we will be revising the plan to do that. We show a dumpster. There's an existing dumpster, of course, approved previously for the Dunkin' Donuts. It's located behind the Dunkin' Donuts building. This dumpster would be for the residences. The topography is such that this is about 7 feet lower than the land just to the west. That's why there's a retaining wall shown here. And we will surround the dumpster with a vegetation. The existing conditions plan, which I showed you a few minutes ago, I won't pull it back up, but it showed about 50 trees to be removed from the site in order to build this. We're going to plant what's shown as 79 trees. We will do more than that with the revised, when we revise the landscaping to add still more buffer. It's a mix of mostly screening trees, some shade trees, and what's the other kind of tree? Flowering trees. So we're really going to put an awful lot of trees on this property, and we will try to do even more in response to concerns raised by neighbors. So we'll revise the plans, and you'll get a plan that has some improvements. The engineering department has done its usual very thorough review of the projects. And a good portion, maybe most of that 13-page report checks off where our plans comply with their recommendations. With regard to some questions they had about the calculation of stormwater flow, Tom Bunker is already addressing that. The conclusions were correct. Apparently, there's some question about the calculations. We'll deal with engineering to make sure that we're good on that. The main concerns that we think engineering had and the planning staff, whom we met with this morning, are the following. One, this plan shows two-way traffic flow just in this area so that cars could back out and exit. We also show two of the spaces for the residences, spaces 15 and 16 over here. They're located at least 45 feet back from the street, but nonetheless, the planning board's concerned about conflict between cars turning in, cars leaving the drive-through and getting back out onto the street here. So I think we're going to eliminate these two spaces here. Also, the planning board, planning staff strongly recommends that this be a one-way traffic flow, which would mean that vehicles leaving a space in front of the residences would just need to go around and get out this way. We don't think they won't need to go all the way around the Dunkin' Donuts store. Just to make that clear, I'm going to go back to the site plans. I don't want you to have a question about what I've just said. So here's the proposed full site. There's parking right in front of the Dunkin' Donuts store that's existing. There's parking on this aisle that is existing, and there's actually some parking in here that's existing. So we're going to create new parking spaces in front of the residences, and the planning staff is recommending, and we think we can do this, that these become angled spaces and all in here, and these become angled spacing so that it's clear people will pull in, it's easier to pull out, and just go around here if they want to exit. So that's pretty simple, and I hope you catch that. So we need 38 spaces, 18 seats, 18 parking spaces. That's the requirement. We don't really need 18 spaces because there aren't one space per seat in a drive-through restaurant is not usually required. But we have 18 spaces plus 20 spaces. Total of 38 spaces for the proposed use. 10 apartments at 2 spaces for each apartment, plus the 18, one for each seat. 38 spaces. We show 39 spaces, so we could lose one. If we lose these 2 spaces, we'll need to make it up somewhere. In order to have the angled parking, these may become, we may lose one of these islands that we proposed. But there's enough room to add at least 3 parallel parking spaces right in this area. We would only need to expand the pavement by 2 feet to have enough room for that. So minor change, a little bit of change to the parking to maintain our minimum 38 spaces, if not 1 or 2 more. But these are planning staff recommendations. Eliminate these spaces, redo this, make this one way. We can do all of that, and we will. And some of those also, those recommendations are also in the engineering department's report. Then there's the question of what happens in the road layout. Well, of course, this is an existing use that was approved in 2016, but there are some things about it that the engineering department would like improved. The granite curbing ends somewhere around here in the street and doesn't continue all the way to the curb cut. There is a berm. There is a textured handicap ramp in this location in front of the just south of the curb cut. But on the other side of the curb cut, we left an existing paved area not landscaped. There's this other one here, which is to be landscaped. There used to be a circular driveway here, so there are those 2 curb cuts. We were going to leave this one in order to be a congregating area for school children and their parents waiting for a bus or before they get picked up. Based on the conversations we've had with planning staff, we think what we're going to do is just turn this sidewalk so it then comes to a ramp right here, and in that way comply with and eliminate this paved congregating area. And we think that's responsive to what the engineering department wants. What is left unsaid is whether the sidewalk, which exists all the way to the curb cut, needs to continue on the other side up to the northerly property line. That would be a sidewalk that leads nowhere except to the property line, because there is no sidewalk anywhere on Sandwich Road on the west side of the road. There is, however, a sidewalk on the east side of Sandwich Road that goes all the way from Route 28 all the way to Brick Hill Road. We think, and of course there's no granite curbing anywhere on this side of Sandwich Road, past where it exists in this area now. We think that any requirement to extend the sidewalk to this location, any requirement to put granite curbing along here it should not be imposed on this project. We don't know what it's going to cost to do this project because we don't have construction drawings. And it's awfully expensive to build on Cape Cod and to build housing. As I said to the planning board the other night, the project that was approved under Mr. Cod at 464 Main Street next to the Chinese restaurant would not be under construction today, and it's just started, except for the fact that the town is awarding $125,000 per apartment, $1.875 million. This is not a Mr. Cod project. We are not asking for any town subsidy. It's true, we're also not restricting the rentals because this is a business zone and we're only doing 5 units per acre. But it's housing that is not likely to be expensive. It's going to be limited by market conditions. You don't get that much more for a market rate apartment than you do for the affordable units, because the rents are pretty good for affordable units. And we don't know if this project is actually going to be feasible, and we just don't think we should be required to do at least this bit of work. We're going to add more landscaping. I think we'll have to redo the curbing here, and we'll have to deal with the radius. But we are hopeful, and I'm hoping that the planning staff talking to the engineering department will be in agreement that we should not be required for this project to extend the improvements in the road past our curb cut, but that will remain to be seen. I think that the comments I've just made really address most of the issues in the, if not all of the issues in the engineering report. We are working with the planning staff, and we will address all those issues, hopefully addressing the one I just discussed about how far do we have to do a sidewalk, how far do we have to do a curb cut, with a resolution that will save some money. But we're working with the town on that. When the Dunkin' Donuts store was approved in 2016, a traffic report was accepted. It said that a Dunkin' Donuts or a fast food restaurant of this size in the peak morning hour would generate up to 276 trips. That is in and out, but that's an awful lot. Those figures are higher than what this Dunkin' Donuts has actually generated, which is closer to 200, not 276. But the ITE tells us, Institute for Traffic Engineers, tells us that for this type of apartment, the average trips per peak hour is 0.46 per unit. That is to say, half the people who live here are going to leave during a peak hour in the morning. 10 units, 4.6 trips, call it 5. 5 new trips versus over 200 existing trips. The impact is going to be insignificant. The town planning staff agrees with that. They felt that's not an issue. We don't need to have another traffic report done. They're more concerned about this site circulation, and we're responding as I've said to that. I just want to show you the architecture. Mr. Keenan would want me to do that. These are good-looking buildings, we think. We've got the floor plans and the elevations. You can see that each of these entrances has a covering over it. In the back, this is the shed for the other unit. I think I've got that right. So these are the access to the sheds behind each building. This is the covered entrance to each building. So I think I've probably addressed everything that shows compliance with the bylaw, and I'm happy to try to answer your questions. Tom Bunker is here to do that. John Keenan is here to do it. So there we are.
Sounds good. Want to start up, Mark?
Yeah, I know you don't want to do a traffic report, but I'm going to give you one. 9 to 9:30 in the morning, the traffic there is out to Sandwich Road. I don't see how that's not going to interfere significantly with the coming and goings in those units. I'm to assume that there's going to be children living here, and with cars queuing up on Sandwich Road, as they will do, not having a granite curb you requested there, I think is a safety issue. We've required them at Brick Kiln Road. We required them on Sandwich Road. And I think there should also be a crosswalk at the corner of the north side of that property going across the street to the actual existing sidewalk. And, you know, to allow traffic, foot traffic to proceed safely. Or otherwise, I'd have to go all the way up to use the other crosswalk. And also frequenting that place, to expect the people to come around and turn down the front. Oftentimes, the the queue at the drive-in doesn't allow that to happen. Because as often as not, I walk in because it's quicker than the drive-through, and I have to wait to sneak around to get into that parking lot by the side entrance. And I'm sure I'm going to have more, but it's my opinion that there's just too much there. 5 buildings, I think, is too many for something as busy as you have there. And well, that's all I have for the moment. And none of these are going to be affordable. Well, we're going to have your word for it that they're going to be affordable, but I mean, rents out there are crazy.
And none of them are going to be restricted. And one of the reasons this project can work better for the owner of the Dunkin' Donuts is that we don't have to deal with monitoring. We don't have to go through a lottery in order to rent units and the like. And so it's not a Mr. Cod project with 20 units per acre. It's 5 units per acre. And some of the units rented to employees, there may be reduced rates, but that's really between the employer and their employee. And there isn't a requirement that that these units be restricted through a regulatory agreement. But I would maintain that there's a need for apartments like this for smaller apartments.
Scott?
Good evening. And I appreciate the project. I appreciate what you're doing, especially with the septic systems. Just kind of want to level set myself, Attorney Ahmed. In the write-up of the application, we have 10 apartments. In your write-up that you had sent to Noreen on November 15th, you have 9 two-bedroom apartments and 2 one-bedroom apartments. So again, just to confirm, are there 10 or are there 11 apartments?
There are 10 two-bedroom units. Okay. There are 5 duplexes. 5 times 2 is 10.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. And again, when you're looking at a 308-page application, there's documentation in here that 39 parking spaces are required, and then I'm looking at page 299, and it's saying 40 parking spaces. So again, you're still having your discussion. You mentioned about taking some away, putting them on angles. Again, just from a confirmatory perspective.
Well, there were 40, I think that there were 40 spaces required, and I could be wrong about this, because when there were 11 apartments, we needed more parking, a little bit more parking. But the numbers are awfully easy. 2 parking spaces for each of 10 apartments is 20.
Yep.
18 seats. It's 38. The present plan shows 39. If we eliminate a couple of spaces, we may end up with 38. As you know, if we were in the Mr. Cod district, right next door, the parking requirement, even for 2-bedroom apartments, is only 1 space. In addition, there's some potential for shared parking, which we don't need in order to comply. We're not asking for a parking reduction, but with 2 spaces per apartment, with 1 space for every seat, with most of the business being through the drive-through, we don't think we have a parking problem at all.
No, I agree. And again, just to Mr. Finneran's kind of observations, if we're reducing the seating from whatever it was, 26 down to 18, I guess you could think that fundamentally more cars would have to potentially be queued up. So again, just be cognizant of that and, make sure we're thinking that through correctly. But I kind of like what you've worked on here, so I appreciate the work to date. Thank you.
Mr. Ahmed, I agree with the comments of Mr. Finneran about traffic flow on this project. I looked at these plans on kind of several times, actually trying to figure out in my mind how it's going to work. And then when I did my site visit, I was out there, I think, around 11:30 in the morning, and one of the things that impressed me was how many trucks and cars were coming in to get coffee and donuts at that time. Now, and you just mentioned an issue, too, that I want to follow up on, not necessarily tonight, but sometime. You're going to have a lot of children, school children, out at the corner of the property on the street waiting for the school bus, and there's going to be a queue of cars moving around there. I want to see that addressed. I'm very anxious to see what the planning board has to say on its site plan review, because I hope that's an issue they will address. The other question, not question, but issue is, I think definitely there should be the sidewalk completed at least to the entrance, so that somebody can walk continuously on a sidewalk down to Sandwich Road, down to Route 28, actually. But there's I'm not opposed in principle to the project. There's a lot of details that I want to see worked out, and I appreciate the fact that you've addressed many of the issues raised by the town engineer in that 13-page report. I think that's a fairly decent job so far. Yeah.
Great. Jim?
No, I would agree with Mr. Duffy's comments. I would like to see what the decision and the conditions the planning board imposes. I think that what you proposed with the angle parking certainly is alleviated, not eliminated, my concerns about the traffic flow around. I, too, will share the sentiments that that is a very busy location. I don't necessarily think it's going to rise to the level of being noxious to multifamily use, but it's very concerning, so I'm hoping you're going to be able to come up with something, and I look forward to the comments of the planner after the decision.
Tony?
Madam Chair, through you, to the zoning administrator, will this need to be continued until the planning board review is completed? Okay. So, my question is on the workforce housing. It's really, none of this is going to be contributed to the subsidized housing industry, inventory. Am I correct?
That's correct.
In that the rents will be market rate. Your letter to the board states The owner operates multiple Dunkin' Donuts, acutely aware of the difficulties of the employees finding satisfactory housing on Cape Cod. The proposed housing project is in response to that problem. I don't imagine that Dunkin' Donuts employees can afford market rate housing. Am I incorrect at that?
Well, that seems to be a leading question, but among the employees who have left the business have been managers of Dunkin' Donuts stores. And as I already indicated, the owner may be in a position to help employees with their rent. It doesn't mean that all of the units are going to be rented to employees. That's probably unlikely, but so there will be some market rate units, just as there is in a 40B project, where only 25% of the units need to be restricted.
Would there be any capacity by this board to mandate that at least 2 of the units be affordable?
Well, this board can attach conditions. Whether those are conditions that would be upheld if appealed, that's a different story. I'm not thinking that this is going to go that direction. The question is also whether this project, this building of housing for rental purposes, where you're not selling the units and getting your money out right away, whether this is even feasible. We don't know that. The more restrictions, which are in excess of what the zoning bylaw requires, the more requirements for work in the town way on conditions that exist today, at some point, this project won't go forward. We are agreeable. I think one of you said that you think we should at least get the sidewalk, at least get the curbing to the curb cut. We're going to agree to that. We're going to have the walkway that comes down to the street curve into the proper place for the bus to pick up kids. We can certainly put a bench or something in the lawn near that area. The idea of this is where kids will wait. We can do things like that. But whoever suggested that was really agreeing with us that maybe we shouldn't have to put in granite curbing and a sidewalk all the way farther to the north end of the property where it doesn't lead anywhere. There's an existing walkway that gets to the sidewalk through the property. There is a crosswalk further to the south. We can certainly put a crosswalk painted on the street, or the town can do it. We're not asking for $125,000 per unit. We're not asking for anything. The town can certainly, or we will, put in a striped walkway across here to connect to the sidewalk, and there is a path on the other side of the street that runs up to the school administration building. I guess it's...
Madam Chair, I don't mean to interrupt. My question was about market rate units, non-market rate units. And I appreciate what you're saying very much. I don't mean to, but I don't want to get thrown off track here. I have a couple more questions. Is that all right if I go through those?
Continue. Yep.
Mr. Emmett?
Go ahead, sure.
I understand that these will be market rate units. Maybe the owner will reduce the rate for a Dunkin' Donuts employee. But in fact, this is a housing project for profit, and it's market rate. Will this project, because of the number of parking spaces, will this project require under 12.1F a performance guarantee?
I don't know the answer to that question without reviewing the bylaw.
All right, I just wanted to bring that up. Very often, this board, when it provides conditions, it says per plan. and I just want to get these little things out of the way. And when we say per plan, it's per plan, but when you, these plans, proposed exterior finish options. So if we say per plan, that means that you haven't chosen whether it's white cedar shingle, clapboards, wood and batten, or panels. You don't know what the outside siding will be at this point in time. Is that correct?
All the construction details have not been decided. I don't think we'd have any problem with a requirement that the construction drawings be submitted to the Board for Administrative Review.
Yeah, because you've
Fine,
got
of course.
choice A through D, and when we say per plans, then we don't really know what we're agreeing to at that point in time, I guess, unless we don't care. I don't know what the rest of the board will
We're
care.
gonna
I understand your concern.
All right, so we're going to get,
revised plans.
so,
Yeah, but
I think-
we're not planning at this time to submit construction drawings that show all those details.
I think you've done an absolutely outstanding job in designing them, so don't misunderstand me. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's nice to see this happening in town here. I have a couple more questions, and I don't want to belabor this too much. You have a nitrogen load. You know, we have issues in this town about nitrogen loading. We know what's gone on and is going on right now with regard to that. And when I saw this report, I'd like to say I truly understand it, but it's the first time I've seen it so well done, is this. You're actually increasing the nitrate level from 69, I guess it's 69,000 milligrams to 97,000 milligrams, yet the concentration goes from a 6.05 to a 5.04. Is that because the nitro system, and is that a brand name nitro, or is it just, all right. May I ask the engineer a question on that?
Thanks.
Because I think this is wonderful that you're doing that.
The Nitro is a brand name. It's actually produced by Clean2. It's a Swedish company, but Nitro is this one type of system that they produce.
So in the reduction, the concentration, which is expressed as 6.05 down to 5.04, when that concentration is expressed in that way, is that a milligrams per liter per day? How is that expressed? I don't understand what that means.
The concentration is it's parts per million.
Parts per million.
Of
Effluent.
it's the amount of nitrate per liter. It's 1 part per million liters. It's kind of parts per million. So it's a concentration. There's we have the Dunkin' Donuts with 26 seats that's untreated, and that will become treated, and then these 20 bedrooms will all be treated. There is an increase in the actual amount of nitrogen in the effluent, but because of the amount of water that's going through the bathroom flow, 110 gallons per day per bedroom, it's more dilute, so it's a lower concentration.
So, and this is a Board of Health thing, it's not in our purview, but the fact that you're dealing with it in the Coastal Pond Overlay District 7.2, you have to do this, given the situation. You've done it, and it's wonderful to see. Just out of curiosity, for me anyway, when the reduction is expressed in this way, this has to go through, does it go through a proofing in the first year once all the units are built? So somebody has to proof it back to the Board of Health?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact requirements, but the Board of Health in approving any of these type of systems, and now they only limit it, they allow it, this acronym BAN, our best available nitrogen reducing technology. There are only 4 systems, and the Nitro is one of them that the local Board of Health and the state approve for use in these nitrogen-sensitive areas. And they do require testing I believe it's quarterly for the first couple of years, and then less testing after that once we get it adjusted so they're confident that it'll be working properly.
I only ask these questions because this board is required to consider all of that within 7.2 and understand it if it should find it's going to approve the project. I would love to know more about this. It's very interesting, but I'm not going to take up anyone's time. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I have a couple questions.
No, you go first, then I'll follow up.
I have a couple questions on the traffic. If you would help me.
I'll try to answer.
Your traffic study's almost 10 years old,
Yeah.
and we've approved a lot of stuff on Sandwich Road. T-Ticket's getting its share. I'm trying to be kind, but T-Ticket's taking the brunt of things. And I assume it's not including the 300, it's not including Trotting Park, the 40B there.
No, of course not. It's 10 years old.
Yeah, is there any way that we could do calcs without having a whole full-blown traffic study? Just some calcs to include? I mean, I only know the 40Bs, I'm sure there's stuff that's gone up that's not even 40Bs.
Well, we're not asking you to approve the Dunkin' Donuts, which, you know, has a lot of trips in and out of that space. Anything we do is going to have a minimal impact on the traffic flow. I mean, we're talking about a car exiting or entering only once every 10 or 12 minutes. 3 trips in, 2 trips out. That's what we're talking about. 4.6 trips at the peak hour for 10 apartments.
Well, what I'm getting at is when the 300 units come in, this project, this Dunkin' could be slammed. There could be far more cars there. Right now, we're already having testimony that the queue goes out to Sandwich Road at busy hours.
Yeah, we don't think it happens often, but Mr. Finneran's experience seems to be
Even
different.
Frank went there at lunchtime today, and it was busy also, in January.
Yeah,
So I just
but we're not
feel
going
there
to,
needs to be consideration for all the extra approvals that are in that area. That's all.
yeah.
I'm not asking for a full-blown
I
study.
understand. I don't think that a traffic study or the traffic counts should make a difference in whether we approve apartments with this little additional traffic.
Okay.
Because of the need, look, we need apartments like this.
That's another question. What does this do to our SHI?
Does nothing. Well, I guess I should say that because
Does do
10%
something.
increases is by, we have 10 more units in town, so in a sense, we have to
Takes
add.
away from our SHI.
Well,
Yes,
how many units, housing units do we have in town?
not enough according to this town.
Well, but we have 15, 20,000, probably more than that, we have housing units in town.
But it is
Look.
going against our SHI. I'm just pointing that out. Frank reads, Mr. Duffy reads, every hearing when he opens it, this will not affect our affordable housing count. We can't say that in this case, because it will affect that.
Well, I suppose there's some tiny fraction that it could make a difference. You're right. The role of the Board of Appeals in these cases is not to require perfection. This project's been described by a member as outstanding. It's a great project, I think. Others are going to disagree. And we can't create apartments. And, you know, we think that we say to employers, you need to do something. You know, why don't you put some apartments above your store, next to your store? Here's a client who's doing it in the right zoning district, reaching a density of development in terms of lot coverage far below what's allowable. And I'm afraid that we let the goal of perfection get in the way of a very good project. We address the engineering department requests as best we can. We point out that there's no sense having a sidewalk continue further. We do the absolute best we can do with denitrification, keeping in mind that the whole area is going to be sewered except not our property, so that the whatever loading there is in Great Pond, which is our coastal pond overlay district, is going to be addressed by the town. We're going to have some children, probably, if we have two-bedroom apartments in particular. We're creating a playground for them. There's Dunkin' Donuts is popular, and we have much more queuing than required by the bylaw, but at times, even that's not enough. Duncan may be able to do some things about that, about getting people through the window more quickly. I don't think they've been aware of this problem. But there are some solutions. I just want to, don't know why we lost this, but I'm going to get this back really quickly.
I think we're okay. I just was.
Well, what I wanted to point out was that the aisle between those two lanes isn't all, it's a double aisle. It was designed for, and presently is, for two-way traffic. It's the required 24 feet wide. There is room for a car to pull out and go around without being in the queue. We can make that work better. People who live there, who in the morning happen to go to work during the peak hour, they can back into their space, making it easier to exit. They can park across in the spaces that are across the aisle, so that if traffic is backed up, they can use the lane to just go around that circle. There are people will know what to do if they live there. So I don't think that the proposed apartments are going to have that great an impact with respect to what's already there. Thanks.
Let's go to the public.
Well, let's go to the public now.
I got a couple of...
You want to ask quick one?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I still believe in front of that building, when you're going to intermingle a school bus, kids, and people waiting to get their coffee in the morning, I think not having a granite curb there, which provides the greatest amount of protection for the people on the sidewalks.
Well, we will put it there at the curve and have the walkway go down. The planning staff felt that where the school bus would stop and let people get on or off would be at the beginning of the curb cut. Cars have to stop when there's a school bus. They're loading.
Side of the curb cut, if you will.
Say again, please.
Left side of the curb cut, if you will.
Well, I don't know which it would be.
Well, if you're driving in the driveway to Dunkin' Donuts, you're proposing the bus stop to be on the left?
No, on the right.
I don't really think it matters, because when
It matters a lot, because the cars are queuing up on the right side of the driveway, and then you got kids, a
Presumably-
bus, and cars queuing up in the street. It's an issue.
presumably for the bus to get to pick up kids, it's heading south on Sandwich Road. Otherwise, we're talking about the other side of the road.
No. It'd be heading south on Sandwich Road.
Right.
And that's the same place where the cars are going to be queued. The kids are going to be waiting.
The bus can't
and
get
there's a
there until...
sidewalk with no no granite curb to protect the children on the sidewalk. That's just an issue with me, but I just want to...
I don't think that what you're saying is in conflict with the idea that we don't need the sidewalk to extend all the way to the north property line of the property.
Would that not be the safest place with cars queuing up into the street? My opinion would be, anyway. And then you're definitely going to have to do some striping in there, because the way that works, cars just go down the center of that, what you project on the screen as a two-lane. They use the center, so...
We'll be happy to do striping as required by the town, or recommended by the town.
And it was kind of misleading where you said that the nitrogen would be reduced. You're actually going to reduce the amount of nitrogen per liter, but the total load is going to be increased, and that's what we're supposed to be cognizant of. I just wanted to point that out. And also, I go there a lot, and I mean, this is going to be tight with the number of parking spaces, and generally, during the daytime, there are 3 or 4 employee vehicles at that place, because whatever, I drink a lot of coffee. And
well, we are going to...
My experience tells me that.
We're going to add 6 parking spaces behind the Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know if I really pointed that out to you.
I wasn't pointed out. And not included in the 38 count?
No, they are included, but we've got 2 parking spaces per apartment plus the 18 spaces. I mean, we think that's enough. It meets the bylaw also.
We'll get to review it when the planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the public. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Who wants to start off from the public tonight? We just need your name and address, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. My name is Lori Lopes. My address is 35 Trotting Park Road. I am Lot 6 on the plan and an immediate abutter. I'd like to thank you all tonight because you really did address a lot of the concerns that I have. I lived there basically my whole entire life. I'm very familiar with T-Ticket. That is an extremely busy Dunkin' Donuts. I myself love coffee, and I can go there a couple of times a day, but I don't walk through the woods because it's blocked off there. But thank you. I just have a few things to say. And my first really main concern was if we could go back to the very first planning board meeting, we received a letter as abutters that the plan was going to be for 3 dwellings with 11 apartments. So that was the notice that we received as abutters. When we showed up to the meeting, and I had all my questions prepared because I studied the original plan, and it was up on the screen, and Mr. Ament took that down and said, that's not the plan we're proposing this evening. We're going to be proposing 5 duplexes with 10 apartments, so we'll be taking 1 less apartment away, but we'll be adding 2 more buildings. So we, as the public, were never notified of a plan change, so we, until the second, so the planning board allowed them to go through with that new plan the whole meeting. They let them propose the whole plan. We were not aware of it. We were actually all blindsided. So, and they're still proposing it in all the headings of all the meetings as a 3 dwelling, 11 apartment complex. That was my most major concern because we were not prepared. We had nothing. We had nothing for that meeting. So that, I'm not so sure if that was appropriate. And maybe you can advise or let me know about that. But then they also showed that same plan in this week's meeting. So the plan switch was my most major concern. The traffic study, which you already addressed, which I appreciate. I am feet from their property line. Like right now, when I look out my kitchen window, I see natural native trees, brush, I have a garden, I have goats. T-Ticket's very agricultural, and they are really taking a lot of T-ticket away from us. I am second generation in my home, as well as a lot of us there on Trotting Park Road. Traffic coming out of Sandwich Road to pull out of Trotting Park Road sometimes is nearly impossible. We have to wait. A lot of people blow that stop sign. The cops get them all the time. They're always waiting there. There's so many traffic stops from people blowing that sign. So that it really is the traffic also. You know, it looks so crowded. I mean, it's a beautiful plan, but when you actually visit the site, it's not that large. Snow plowing is probably going to be a nightmare. I'm sorry, but one last thing. Mr. Ahmet said that it's not to require perfection. And in the planning board the other night, he said that it's not a fancy location. Well, T-ticket's fancy to me. It's my home. It's agricultural. I lived there all my life. It's not fancy. It's farmland. It's jeans and boots and people that like to work in their yards. But I'd just like to say thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything that you already addressed, and a lot of those were my questions also. So thank you very much.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Mike Bishop, I believe lot 7, correct? So I'm on the corner of the north, I guess it would be west. Couple questions. First one is the parking spots. So you said there's 2 per unit. Do you have a plan for guests? I'm just curious if there's one for guests or for occupancy for each unit, because I'm not sure if you're going to have max people in a unit. You could have, you know, a couple with 16, 17-year-old kids, and they're going to have vehicles. So what do you do with those vehicles? I mean, I think that should be a concern. And my other one is just a general one for traffic. Have we ever looked at that stop sign, that Lori, which is also my cousin, that I also grew up there my whole life? People just blow through that. So when you're on Trotting Park Road, you can't get out. Has anyone looked at putting like a light there, like they do on the expressway in Boston, where you have to stop? I mean, I'm just for an idea, because, I mean, Mark's been there.
There's a redesign plan.
It's just...
Turn it into a T, but it hasn't got...
Something, because especially the summer, it's just getting ridiculous trying to get out of that road.
State highway, which the town doesn't have as much control over the intersection.
So that would be highway.
It's
okay.
Town and state meet, so the state... But they would like to make that a T, because it's a bad intersection.
And it's just frustrating, because you'll see from leaving Dunkin' Donuts, there'll be 10 cars there, and as soon as they go, every single car goes at the same time, so everybody just totally blows off the stop sign. Meanwhile, you're in Trotting Park, and then Trotting Park's backing up 10 vehicles deep. So, I don't know, that's just the frustrating part of living on Trotting Park Road, but thank you very much, appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mary Bishop. I'm at 45 Trotting Park Road, right next door to my son Michael. And right next to me is my daughter Nancy Bishop. So we have our own little compound there on that street and across the street of Trotting Park. And I have lived there a good 70 years. And my children used to play on Trotting Park Road and would get upset when one car would come. Well, now you can't even get on Trotting Park from my driveway. But looking at the plan, I guess there's not much lawn that's going to go in there. And Mr. Ahmed indicated there were going to be a lot of trees. Well, right now, you can look out my back, and we still keep our farmland. My daughter has like a mini farm there. But we can't see Sandwich Road right now. But I'm afraid that that's going to go by the board, and all our trees and brush is going to go. And I noticed, I think there's a dumpster right at the corner of the house next to Laurie. And I said, I guess we're all going to be here in that dumpster at 4 o'clock in the morning, because it's right on the edge of the road, you know, towards the houses. but, and then the play area, I didn't get, it didn't say playground, and I didn't quite understand what a play area would be just all grass, a fenced-in area, or are we going to put something in there? And I'm thinking, is it going to be fenced in, or are we going to have children coming, right through? We do have farm animals there, and I think that needs to be addressed. And as far as the traffic, I'm like Mr. Finneran. When I go down there to Dunkin' Donuts, my car is backed up, and people are trying to get out of the queue area, and it's not just at 7, 8, or 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's accidents waiting to happen. But thank you, and I think you've addressed a lot of the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to ask any more questions or make any statements before Mr. Ahmed might address what was brought up? One more.
I passed the next one. He's got his questions. Madam Chairman.
My name is Daniel Figueredo, and I own the house at 20 Sandwich Road, directly north of Butter. As the board has stated, the president of Butters have also stated, obviously, traffic's a huge issue. There's many times I can't pull in and out of my driveway throughout the summer, especially March through October now, and it gets later and later every year as the season grows, and more people stay later and later year by year. It's a beautiful plan. I mean, it looks good. The houses are beautiful, but for that, where they're proposing it, it just seems a little too much for that area. Looking out directly, seeing 4 houses where right now it's just woods, don't see the Dunkin' Donuts building itself. It's nice, but looking up every morning, looking at that, not something that I'd love to see, but. And the other thing is safety. There will be kids living there. There will be cars blowing by that stop sign. If there are kids waiting at that bus stop and just cars not stopping, I know there's couple hundred feet before Dunkin' Donuts curb cut and the stop sign, but they won't be looking at kids. They'll be looking at 28 to see who's coming and whether they can go or not. So safety is a big concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rafael Beltran. I live in 29 Troughton Park Road, right in back of Dunkin' Donuts. And I hear a lot of noise and people insulted, the people, the service people swearing, which I hear that almost every day. Well, not every day, but. And one time I remember one guy was really mad. He was swearing like crazy. And their children's next to, there's a little house there with kids. And anyway, so Dunkin' Donuts put Dunkin' Donuts there anyway, and they did a very good job. They put the trees. You don't see Dunkin' Donuts that much, but you can hear it every morning. Welcome to Dunkin' Donuts. How can I help you? I have to hear that almost every day, because I have a garden next to that place there, so I can hear that every day. But anyway, my concern is cutting all those trees. That's going to really look my view in the back like completely destroyed. And I see lots of animals, like deers and all kinds of walking through across there. Now, if they're going to put a fence there and they're going to block all that, where are those animals going to go? Because I know they go between everybody's house. Is that right? Yeah.
Every day they go through there.
So I don't understand Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, why? I mean, first, Dunkin' Donuts is not a very healthy food anyway. They're not doing a favor to this town, I don't think. So why Dunkin' Donuts do a favor for the people, or especially us, and leave that place alone so the animal can enjoy and we can enjoy the wild trees? That's all I ask, please. So please try not to build anything there, because I'll be very upset. But if you have to, there's nothing I can do. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think we're all set. This is going to be continued because we are waiting for the site plan approval.
Madam Chair, is it appropriate for me to just make one more comment to the applicant before we go? If this is going to be continued, and listening carefully to the abutters as to what they just said about landscaping and looking at the landscaping plan, as one member, I would like the applicant to consider, if this is approved, as part of the approval, that there be a much denser landscape screening put up behind these units to block off, or to at least give back the folks that live there something as far as landscaping is, because they are going to lose what they have today. I know that's progress, but I just want to mention that and hope that the applicant will consider the project may need additional landscape screening behind the units.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Just a few comments in response to what you've heard. The play area, as proposed, is fenced. We are going to move, as I said, the fence further away from the property line so that there's more room for landscaping. I've already said we were going to add more than the 79 trees that are shown. You know, zoning doesn't protect the owner of one property from seeing into the adjacent property. We can do more landscaping, and we will. But our lot coverage is not high. Views of the street, views of Dunkin' Donuts, views of the car are going to be blocked by the relatively small residential buildings. There is no protection in zoning from having one abutter being able to see a house next door. There is no protection from being able to avoid having children playing in a fenced playground next to your property. Somebody cleared the entire lot next to my property recently to build a big house. They had a right to do it. And I planted a bunch of trees to soften that. We're going to plant the trees for the neighbors. We're going to reduce the impact. The dumpster will be emptied after 7 a.m. Okay? That can be a condition, because it is a condition in your present special permit issued 10 years ago. If that isn't being complied with, the neighbor should say so, and we should have to comply with it. So we will comply with that. There is a wildlife corridor next door. It doesn't extend onto this property and the deer don't seem to follow the rules. I'm just kidding. Yes, there's wildlife that will be impacted by this, and we will replant trees, and we're keeping the lot coverage significantly below. This is a good plan, as people have said. We have some traffic issues, apparently. These traffic issues exist. Our proposal to provide some housing is barely impacting those. You can raise the question of whether, because of traffic problems, this is a good place for children. So we can try to address those as best we can. I think there are a lot of families with children who would like to live in this location. Thanks.
Thank you. Going forward to.
So we have February 27th, right? Yes.
Motion to continue to February 27th, you said?
27.
27th.
She said,
Second.
February 27. All you guys hear that out there, too?
7 or 7?
27. Yep. So we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, great. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you,
Mr. Ron.
Thank you.
take a little break here.
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break.
Also called the high art.
You guys all set? Good. All right, our next case is 10, I should put the glasses on before I say anything, 11024, 16 Pacheco Path. Frank?
Okay, this is application 110-24, Garrity and Doherty Properties LLC. This company has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-9.6B of the Code of Falmouth to allow a home occupation. The subject property is 16 Pacheco Path in East Falmouth. The zoning district is RC. This is in the Bournes Pond Coastal Pond Overlay District. On record, there are no previous zoning Board of Appeals decisions applicable to this property. The lot is 43,550 square feet in a zoning district which requires a minimum of 40,000 square feet, so it's conforming. Street frontage is 319.32 feet in a zoning district which requires 100, so there's no problem there. Pacheco Path is a public right-of-way, as we've been advised by the engineering department. There are no changes to structures, setbacks, lot coverages, or any of those considerations. The garage in question apparently conforms to zoning setbacks, although it's not listed in the application. In fact, the application is kind of sketchy with some of these details, but we have an engineering referral which requires legible building numbers, so the owner of the property will have to confer with the engineering department to make sure that's corrected. The Board of Health has no issues at this time because there's no issue with a septic system. Conservation Commission has no comment. The Fire Department has no comment. The assessors have no comment. The building department has advised us that the business must be owned by a resident of the dwelling on the property, and there's a limit of 30% of the gross floor area of the dwelling for the business. We have one letter which appears to be in support. I say appears to be in support because it doesn't really say so, but it says nice things. And that's really all the information I have. As I said, we have a rather sketchy application.
Hi, I'm Brendan Garrity, one of the owners of the property. I wasn't too familiar with the process till I heard everyone else, so I don't have a presentation or anything like that, but I'm here to answer any questions.
And you have no plan to put up or anything?
No.
Okay.
What was your name, Brendan Garrity?
Yeah.
Anybody up here have any questions?
Yeah, is that your business, the marine?
No, it's one of the tenants.
How is this 30% going to apply? I know it's really meant for, occupations in the actual home, but the reality is this dwelling is larger than the footprint of the home. So how does that, seems on the surface anyway, it would preclude the use of some of this space? I'm not familiar how we should apply this. And this has always been used this way, but it just came up, somebody complained or something? How did this get in front of us? What prompted you or precipitated you to come here and apply for this permit?
Yeah, someone did complain. The building was in very bad shape after the previous contractor had left, and I think he was there for over 25 years. He wasn't a tenant of the building, of the duplex, and we just repaired the whole building, cleaned up the premises, all the tires and everything that was left there was all cleaned out, and then someone from a different neighborhood, or I guess, had complained about the use.
Now, I used to, not that it matters to this application, but I used to have a business, and there are several rentals on that. Do you own all of those buildings now?
No.
Or just that one in the garage?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I'm still curious as to
Let's ask Noreen.
how we apply the 30%.
Maybe you can help us
Yeah.
figure out why we're here.
Right, so I think, perhaps the first order of business too is when you look at the home occupation section, it also talks about essentially what is as of right, if you will. And it certainly appears that the way the bylaw is set up is that when it starts to propose a special permit is when you have an undersized lot. Here, they do not have an undersized lot. So I guess that's part of the question too, is whether they actually need a special permit here.
Well, but they don't, to your point, I guess, they don't match up to a lot of the component. What's the business that you're doing there? And you don't live there, correct?
No, I don't live there. It's like a marine company. They service the local yacht clubs, service boats, and like the premises.
So you don't live there, because there's an piece of the bylaw, there shall not be more than 2 employees or not family members. I mean, are you fully aware of?
Yeah, no, I read through them. There's, from what I know, is everything I put in the application is there's 2, brother and a sister that are on site sometimes, and then 2 employees.
So as much as anything, they're just parking the vehicles there. All their business is on the road?
Yeah, they sometimes have a boat inside. I'm not sure the extent of work, but from what they told me, it's essentially just storage. But so I'm not sure that we kind of should have gone through this process, but just since we got a letter highlighting home occupation, submit a special permit, so that's what we went through.
I mean, it also appears as though these vehicles that are being used for the business are related to the people that live there in the house, correct?
Yeah.
So, if you were a business person and you use your vehicle, like if you were an electrician or a plumber, you would park your business vehicle where you live. So I guess that's the other part too, is, how do you parse out what portion of the property they're using for themselves or their business if it's their business vehicle, right?
Right. Is there any comment from the building department?
Well, yes. The building department said that the business must be owned by a resident of the dwelling, and we have to get into that with Mr. Garrity.
Well, it is.
And then the limit, 30% of gross floor area of the, in other words, the home, it's just a home-based service business, not a home occupation.
Yes.
It's much different.
Thank you.
Right, so he's applying for the wrong thing. So that business cannot be more than 30% of the gross area of the dwelling, floor area of the dwelling, and that's a question we got to get into with Mr. Garrity.
But it's even more than that, though, don't you
Well,
think?
there's a lot more things, and
Yeah.
I think we'll get to it as we
Okay.
go through the questioning.
I mean, essentially, it appears that all the tools of their trade, so to speak, are in the trucks because they're mobile. You know, I mean, he's just parking vehicles there like any electrician, plumber, or...
Well, he's got 2 vehicles parked, but he says in his application that he's using 50% of the garage for his business.
Yeah, but he's the property owner being leased to another company not related to them. All of them live out of town. The only ones that live in town are the 2 renters that work for the marine company. None of them are related to the ownership.
Technically, aren't they the owner because they lease the dwelling?
But the owners don't live there. It specifically says, for the purposes of this definition, the home occupation must be owned and operated by the resident of the premises.
Yeah.
He is the owner of the property. He's not the resident in the premises, and the use of the property is by Northern Coastal Services, the tenant. He's using it currently right now as if he were in a business district or an industrial district right now, he's not using it as a home occupation because there is no one who owns the home working in it, and under the definition, that's required.
No, the definition said resident, though.
It says resident, so.
Resident, and the resident is the one who owns the marine company.
Right, but you also, because the person that lives there is a renter, under special permit requirements, you have to have the owner participate in a special permit grant, for example, because only the owner can grant permission to someone to do this. So the owner's here for their tenant. So the tenant is able to have a business. There's no preclusion. What they say is,
Says resident.
correct, you're the resident there, and so therefore you're maintaining your vehicles in the garage on your property.
But that does not happen. It is not owned and operated by the resident. They're employees of the marine company, of Northern Coastal Services. They're not...
The resident is Northern Coastal Services, so it does apply under what you just read,
Okay.
I believe.
I don't think it does, but in any event.
Let's ask, who owns the house?
I do.
Who are you? The company or yourself?
Myself. I have nothing to do with the company. I'm just the property owner.
But the resident.
And who, sorry, so the house is owned by Brendan Garrity.
That's what owns the...
But the resident, as it says
Okay, now
in the
we'll get
thing.
that in a second. Who resides in the house?
There's 2 tenants, 2 units. One of the tenants is one of the partners of the business, Kyle Curran.
So he operates the business?
Yes, he's one of the partners.
Okay, and does the other tenant have anything to do with this?
No.
How do you get a 2-family house in a district that only allows a single-family residence?
That whole street has a number of 2-family.
Madam Chairman, there was some correspondence, I believe, from the building commissioner and the tax assessor that has been taxed as a multifamily for 20-plus years. So I would suggest it's a pre-existing non-conform or grandfathered use as a multifamily in a single-family
But
district.
I have a question about that.
It comes in as to the home-based service business issue. I think I see where you're going.
It's like 4 multifamily houses in a row, because I used to pick up numerous employees at numerous of
Can I
those
procedurally
buildings.
just ask if the board is in agreement, because we keep coming back to, there's different words and meanings within home occupation versus home-based service business. And I would certainly agree with Mr. Pedrucci that I don't think this is a home occupation. This is a home-based service business. Because it's a different standard, different words, and different criteria. So I think that there's an error either in our agenda or in the application. Certainly understand with non-practitioner owners picking the wrong thing. But yes, but in terms of our analysis, I think the board should be clear as to what are we looking at here?
But my question...
So it's not 9.6 then? Where's home-based service?
No, it's a home-based service business. If he's anything, he's a home-based service business. He's not a home occupation.
Yeah, well, that's 9.6. What's home-based?
Well, here it is on page 20.
The definition is on page 20.
Yeah.
Home-based service business, a home occupation that operates from a single-family residence or structure on an adjoining lot, provided that both lots are in common ownership with respect to fee and not fee interests and do not satisfy the definition of a contractor yard and meets the following criteria. A, the single-family residence shall be the domicile of the resident owner/operator of the business. B, the business employs not more than 2 individuals who are non-family members on the premises. C, the business is one of the following types. 1, landscaping. 2, electrical wiring. 3, plumbing, including gas fitting. 4, construction, including home building and remodeling, framing, masonry, and foundations, siding, carpentry, drywall, air conditioning, energy services, roofing, painting, and sign making. 5, mobile marine services, excluding boat storage. 6, other general services not more specifically listed. And D, the business meets all the criteria contained in section 240-9.6B, the special permit criteria for home-based service businesses.
So my question would be, what doesn't he meet? Or what do they not meet? Home-based service.
Single family.
Single family is it.
He's not a single-family resident?
What was your other one, Frank?
Well, that's right. The business employs not more than 2 individuals who are not family members. How many people are employed by this business?
That's correct. On that site, I'm told it's a brother and sister and 2 other employees.
But since it's a corporation, there are no family members, so the maximum number of employees they can have is 2. And you're saying they have 4.
I thought that was besides the family members.
There's no family members when a corporation is the business.
Okay, I don't know.
At least that's my view.
Wow, that's a real hair splitter.
It's the 2 people.
Now, what would preclude?
It's a corporation that runs the business. He said so. It's not an individual running the business with a family. It's a corporation who has no family.
Well, it's an LLC with a manager, and it names only one manager at the corporate records right here. Robert Shimby, I think it is?
Yes.
Who lives in Duxbury. So are you saying that there is another owner who's not listed on the corporate listing here?
Yeah, I'm told there's 3 partners to the business.
I think we need, we need testimony and representations from the business. It's no fault of your own, but that we need someone from the whoever is doing the marine work services needs to be here to answer questions.
No, I hate to ask this, but, I'm going to anyway. What would preclude this gentleman from just renting his garage separately?
Not allowed in the zone.
What is the purpose of the rental if it's just to put someone's car in there? I'd say there's no zoning or any violation. If you're running a commercial enterprise out of it, though, that's what triggered it. My understanding, speaking with the zoning administrator, please correct me, is that for the most part, there hasn't been any opposition. It's been that there was actually compliments that the building was cleaned up. We've had testimony from the applicant, but it's
the work isn't done there. I mean, it's a mobile.
Right.
I mean, essentially, they're just parking vehicles there.
The person that lives there is parking their vehicle there, similar to other mobile marine operations that you've approved before. And, in truth, people are not, it's not a home occupation in that the work is not being done there. The person's parking their vehicle, so.
There's no cease and desist or enforcement action from the building commissioner at this point,
And it's all
correct?
within the
And
garage.
I'm adverse to hemming up anybody that's just trying to make a living.
No, and anyone who's trying to do the right thing, I don't know, seems like at this point, without additional testimony, it's a square peg in a round hole, and.
Very much so. Very much so.
But at the same time, there's no enforcement action. And
No.
that might, I don't necessarily disagree with the point that if someone's just parking a commercial vehicle and they're a commercial vehicle in a residential neighborhood, I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah. And it's allowed.
But it's restricted, and these vehicles would fit into, it's restricted by weight.
Of course.
And these vehicles, well, at least the one I've seen, would fit in that type of environment, but I think we need to know more.
Well, there are 2 trailers on that property, and according to the zoning bylaw, do you know how long those trailers are? What's the length of them?
I don't know the length of the trailers, but I know the pickup trucks are under the weight limit.
Well, I'm talking about the trailers. You know, we need to know how long those trailers are, because there's a requirement in the zoning bylaw that they either be screened from public view or you have a special permit for those trailers, and you don't have either.
Wouldn't you say they're screened from public view? That's a very secluded area.
No, you're on a public way. That's a public street.
Oh.
I was surprised to find out that it was a public street, but it is.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was always private.
Well, that's what Scott Schluter said. It's a public street.
I actually did a town meeting article relative to, I don't know, I was taking pictures of lots filled with junk and garbage, and that was one of the places that I took pictures of. And I was quite surprised when I drove down the other day. It is noticeably, I mean, it's certainly not offensive anymore, and I think we had, correspondence that indicated that. I mean, it used to be like a half a dump down there.
But it either fits within the zoning or it doesn't. And I think it's wonderful it's been cleaned up, and I think it's appropriate. And you have to know that I am 100% in business favor. I mean, that's my whole life has been in business. So I'm not trying to be obstructionist in this. But the problem with many communities is that zoning isn't always adhered to. And when the rule of law is excluded, then you lose order. So we have, I don't know what the abutters are going to say, but we have abutters and other people who may be concerned that there's a violation of the zoning bylaw, and I don't know that. I'm confused by it. So.
We also have.
Definitely need more information.
Yeah.
We do, and there's a lot more information.
Any public
But
here?
One of the questions I have is that the garage is a 4-bay garage. Anything more than 2 in this district requires a special permit. There's no record of a special permit.
But also, it's been there longer than 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
So it's
Well, yes, the building is grandfathered. We can't tear it down, but the use is not grandfathered. So
Right.
there's question there.
I mean, you're gonna.
A lot of questions.
I mean, it's just,
What do we recommend?
I think the applicant has got a lot of homework
I
to
think we go to
do.
the public first, and
You're
then,
aware that you could turn that
Yeah.
garage into another dwelling now, don't you? Aren't you?
Yes, yes, I believe so.
Bob,
Let's hear from the
Maybe
public.
even more.
Yeah. You guys want to come up? We just need your name and address, please.
Hi, Art Gutch, 15 Terry Lou Ave. So I live directly in back of the building on Terry Lou. And you guys are familiar with that road there. It's a dirt road, so there's nothing, there's a butters behind the trees on the other side. But I walk through there almost every other day to go to the woods, walk down. I run the trail at Sea Farms Marsh there, so I'm in there all the time. I pass the building, hundreds of times. So the owner that's in there now has done a great job of cleaning that place up. It was a disaster. He cleaned it up, redid the whole building. I've never seen any really large trailers in there. It's mostly, he's got his pickup trucks parked there. He's got his boat there now. I guess he's storing. But from my perspective, my concern was that they don't do anything more than they've done already. Right now, I've seen for the last, since I've been there, which is only 3 years, all he does is park his cars there. I never hear any noise. He's cleaned it up. So as long as he doesn't do anything other than that, I'm totally fine with it. I'm more concerned with, as you mentioned, that other group of buildings that's on the other side of me where there's been some issues.
Including murder?
Yeah, I was going to say, call it whatever. So, but this one in particular, and Sonny, my neighbor, you probably know him, Pimentel, who's been there for 70 years. He wrote that nice letter, I think, that's in the file. So he and I both agree that this gentleman has done a good job cleaning it up. It's very quiet. There's no noise. As long as it doesn't turn into some kind of active area where there's things going on that causes noise or trouble, we're fine with it as abutters. I had some of the same concerns you guys did, because I'm a little bit familiar with development and stuff like that, as to how it would become a home use, how that definition would apply to this, because it's a little bit weird. And I made a comment to Sonny about that, about how that was my only concern, whether whoever's trying to keep him from doing this might use that as a way to get him out of the building. But I'm comfortable with what's going on there, as long as no further development occurs and no other further activity occurs. You know, I'm fine with it. He's cleaned it up nicely. I walk through, and I don't have to walk through a bunch of junk and stuff that's not there anymore, so he's done a good job. That's the only comment I have.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Fred Leach, 28 Gale Ave. I'm the one that pretty much started this whole thing. I can also give you a little bit more information than you have at the present time. Obviously, one of the things that you all brought up was the difference between whether this is a home-based business or whether it is a home service business. The owner of this property has nothing to do with the business on the property. As you guys stated, I went through the whole thing, going through 240, 3.3, home-based business, must be owned and operated by the resident of the presence. In this case, the business owner is not the owner or the resident of the property. One of his employees is in one of the two units. He is not one of the registered owners of the company, and it's not listed that way. It's a single-family residence, shall be the domicile of resident owner. It's not. By requirements, a home occupation is provided 30%. If you do call it based on the 30%, the dwelling unit is 2,016 square feet. The garage unit is 2,280. So basically, it's over 100% of the dwelling. And he's not using one or two bays. He presently has access to all 4 bays. By criteria for home occupation as a home-based service business, you may approve this based on the following. All exterior storage, including trailers under 18 feet in bed length, shall be completely screened. This gentleman, at present, owns 2 3/4-ton trucks, 2 trailers that are just under 18 feet long, 2 vans in addition. The number of employees, if you go on Northern Coastline's website, he lists over 10 employees. He has multiple service contracts in town, including Bosun's Marine, McDougal's Marine, Falmouth Marine. This isn't pop through a few yacht clubs and do a few private persons' boats. This is a large and growing marine service business. Hours of operation shall be limited to 7 to 7. This fall, during the busy season, this business, the employees were arriving at 6:30 in the morning for their morning meeting, and then departing with the cars and the company vehicles around 7 to 7:30. Deliveries for this business are from Kellogg Marine Supply and have been as early as 5:45. Now, you would think with all of us coming here today, everybody would have been on the best behavior, and they have done several things in preparation for this. Kellogg Marine Supply was there this morning at 5 minutes of 6 with a large 13,000 gross vehicle weight truck with a lift gate, all the rest of that, dropping supplies off. I've lived in this property for over 30 years, raising 3 kids here. My property is on Gale and goes all the way to the front of this property on Pacheco Path. I bought this house when it was spec built from the Pacheco family, who owned all of this property all the way down to the water. I have taken over that time the back third of my lot and planted it out and allowed it to grow in to have some privacy from Pacheco Path. There is not much, however, that I can do about the noise from a business. Applicant stated in the application that the base were leased by the same local contractor for over 25 years and thought it was grandfathered. They purchased the property in 2021. After buying the property from Mike and Robin Richard, who had purchased the property from the Pachecos in 2005. While the Pacheco family owned the properties, the bond was used for many things, from storing old cars. Jerry Pacheco, when he owned Winston's Restaurant here in town, used it for overflow storage for the restaurant. Friends and family stored items in the bond. During their time, there was never any big issues. But one of the Pachecos lived on the street at all times. The property was sold to the Richards in 2005, who lived off Cape and just started renting the place out. That is when most of the issues started. During this time, complaints were filed with the zoning enforcement officer listed in 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2010s, with corrections made each time. But the owners assured the officer that the brother, Mr. Enos, who was just using the property for storage, and no special permit was ever filed. The owners have had the property for 3 years and felt it was grandfathered. I'm not a professional property management company, but even I would check with the zoning requirements before starting to rent out an adjacent building for a commercial business. Last year, they took a fallen down stick bay, and this has all occurred in the past year. They took down a falling down stick bay, and I get it. It's gorgeous now compared to the crap that was left there from the previous owners. And the gentlemen that are behind, especially Sonny, who wrote the letter, Sonny, over the years, cleared the back of his lot all the way to the property line, which is in close proximity to the back of the building, where there was a large amount of stuff that he was now looking at on his new patio. Now that it's cleaned up, Sonny's happy as can be. He's in the back of the building. I see the front of the building. So far, in the course of 1 year, new siding has been put on the building, a new roof. The inside was professionally cleaned from any mold or animal issues that they had. It's been upgraded on the electrical. Garage has a separate meter, and it has now a commercial account with Eversource. They have installed insulation, wallboard, constructed an office, and ran underground internet cabling to the office. They've even now, there's going to be a correction on house name change. This lot supposedly is just for storage use. They rented out the property to a growing commercial business without proper permits. I guess it's easier to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. Now, the owner of this business, and the reason why I can tell you more about this than anything, is I am the general manager of one of the marinas here in town. And I know exactly what Bob, the owner of Northern Coastline Business, entails. I like Bob and have recommended him to some of my customers and other businesses. But this property is not commercially zoned, and his business should not be in there. He has had boats on the property over the fall doing sanding, varnish work, and like I said, he has large accounts with Bosun's, McDougal's, as well as others. His supplies from Kellogg Marine is from Connecticut, and even I, only my marina is zoned marina, we have no control when Kellogg comes. They're coming off out of state. When they show up, they show up. And it depends on how many stops they have before you. Times slow down. Right now, if you go look at the place out and back, it's a ghost town. Come to my marina. Other than the boats that are parked all over the place, it's a ghost town also. Our busy season, spring and fall, and somewhat during the summer. That's when all the service is going to happen. Kellogg's Marine, like I said, has been at all times. Friday, December 20th, after several times of my talking to Bob about things going on this lot and the deliveries being made by Kellogg's, I texted him at 6 in the morning on December 20th after they just left. That truck, when it comes down, if it's the smaller truck, he can get the truck down and turn it around in the lot. If he cannot, if it's the bigger truck, he has to back it from Davisville all the way down the street with the extra halogen lights, with the backup alarm. It pulls into the lot. It's got a hydraulic lift gate that when you flop it down, it's not that bad, but when he puts it back up, it slams in. The guys are there talking. It makes a ton of noise. I texted Bob about it that Friday, and basically he told me exactly what I told him before this all started. I have no control over when Kellogg's makes the deliveries. I'm sorry it woke you up. There's nothing I can do about it. And it continues. Right now it's quieting down, but even this morning he had shrink wrap delivered. The property is dead center on Davisville Peninsula with the first speed limit sign of Davisville saying densely populated, speed limit 30. While I'm for business, it shouldn't be done in a residential area. Both the application and the gentleman has stated that it's a very isolated spot. It is isolated on the right side where it's conservation land. If you're in the back of it, you can see it from the property owners in the back. From my property, even though I have taken a third of my acre-and-a-quarter lot and let it grow over, I can still see the office store and through the vegetation, and I can tell you what truck's over there and what truck isn't. Now, it isn't that isolated except on the right-hand side. Pacheco Path originally was a dirt road and not a street. Once the Pacheco family sold the lower property and it was added into the CMAS Conservation, that is when the town decided to make it a town road. I lost a little bit of the back of my property, so that could happen. This property is the last piece of property as you get into the conservation area. So the last thing you see, which right now it's nice and quiet because it's winter, but once spring hits, you get a lot of cars driving down there. It is water access to Bourne's Pond. There's cars going down with kayaks, canoes, people going down there all the time. They will be driving right by the front of this place, which is not screened at all from the street in any way, shape, or form. A lot's been said about that they haven't really been doing that much and it's pretty quiet. I can drop you guys some pictures, which the pictures I have show right in the start some of the electrical work that was being done, some signage that was put up, some of the original goings-on that was there with the building, and also there is one boat sitting in the front of the building right now that is shrink-wrapped. I can show you pictures of other boats that have been here only in this fall, because it's only been this year that he's been operating out of that business. A simple look at Northern Coastline's website will say that this is just absurdity that this is being brought into the middle of a densely residential area. Somebody mentioned the fact that, you could take that out and put another building in it. As the previous thing that was brought up here is that there's a shortage of housing. I would be all for putting up with a year or two of bulldozers and a residential piece of property going in there, because the property, just by nature of the size of the building, it's not going to be given to the people that are renting to use for their cars. They have no garage. There is no garage available for them. They're always going to try to keep this as a business. And the owner of the business that is operating out of there right now has nothing to do with it. And yes, the majority of their work is off-site. And yes, there's only the 2 trucks. But it's 2 trucks, 2 trailers, 2 vans. 2 of the employees right now are taking the vans home so that they're not parked there overnight. He has a lot of other employees, especially in the spring and fall when he's heavy into work, that drive there in the morning, and then they drive also on site. Myself, with having them in on the marina that I work for, Green Pond, we have issues when they come in that I end up with 2 trucks, 2 trailers, a van, and then umpteen other employees' cars with 1 person per car. So even at the marina, I've told him, you can't bring them all in here. You got a carpool. Shove a couple of them in the truck so that they're not bringing the cars in at the same time. So it is lighter on that, but the initial idea, and there have been boats over there with varnish work being done. The other thing that I was surprised at, and that was due to the application, is one of the things that comes up with that is with the Board of Health. With a marine business, it has to meet Board of Health requirements, and that's one of their main, like a auto repair shop, that they look at very carefully. Even if he's using that business for storage, the Board of Health did not realize what business was going in there when they gave you it's okay based on the septic. There is no increase in septic because there is no water or bathroom in the building at the present time. However, as a marine service business, they are required to get approval, according to the code, from the Board of Health based on what materials will be stored and kept in the building. By the nature of this gentleman's business, he lists, and I've seen it done, his spring business is bottom painting, detailing hulls. All of the bottom painting, even if you're using water-based paint, is high in heavy metals. Not a good item to be storing. He also is a prop speed technician certified. That is a 2-part, very harsh, chemical-based epoxy material you put on underwater gear. When you apply that, you are supposed to have basically almost a hazmat suit to put it on. That will be stored on location. He also does fiberglass work, so you're going to have...
Hold on one sec. Does the board want to vote to give him 5 more minutes? You're only supposed to have 2 minutes.
I'm pretty much done.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So it's all of those materials that, even if it's primarily used for storage, that's what's going to be stored on location. It's not storing, I don't know, rubber duckies. It is what it is. So with that, I'm good. I will give you, there was with the previous owners, and there was a complaint filed. When the complaint was filed by me with the zoning board, it immediately was referred to him that you don't have a permit for this, and to continue doing this, you had to get a special permit. That's what prompted this getting to what it happened today.
Thank you.
And there's 2 sets of photographs as to some of the stuff. But
Thank you.
Well, not.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
We ask some follow-up questions of the applicant.
Hold on for a sec. Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Garrity, we've heard some testimony from an abutter, and he submitted some photographs. I don't know if you have seen these, you might want to take a look, but testimony this evening is that there is actual marine services being performed on the lot or in the bays. Can you confirm or deny that?
I can't either way. If there's photos of proof, then I understand that, but I have no comment on the business. I was always told storage and go in there to get tools and then leave and go to the yacht clubs.
What about actual boat storage on the lot?
No, I was not aware.
Is there boat storage currently?
I haven't been in a couple months.
There's one boat there at the moment.
Got pictures of several boats.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by boats where I live, and I'm residential.
Well, yeah, not,
This is a
not being
business, so-
stored for commercial purposes, though. Different if
Well,
it's
it
an
could be
owner who
his
has a
own,
boat
it
in
could
their
be
yard.
someone's own boat,
There's one boat there now, I believe.
but it could be personal, we don't know.
Yeah.
You actually, with some of the ones that are there.
Gotta come up.
I have no more further
Any
comment.
further questions for the applicant, for anybody?
I just want to make one. You applied, sir, identifying the owner as Garrity and Doherty Properties LLC. That's what it says on the application. But then I think in response to a question from me, you said you were the owner. Did you mean yourself or the corporation?
Sorry, the corporation is the owner.
All right. And does Garrity and Doherty Properties LLC have any interest in the business being conducted in that building?
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so what do we want to do here?
Just one quick one on that, just with the boat. There is presently only one boat. The boats were cleared out once this was coming to head. There's only one boat sitting on the property right now, which is shrink wrapped. If someone's stating that these are his boats, all of the pictures, and I can send them to you electronically, you can give them to Greg down the harbor master's office, and he can give you from the registration numbers exactly who owns them, and it's not the business owner.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any suggestions?
Doreen,
This is not a
what do we do
home-based
with
business.
this thing here?
This is a commercial endeavor.
I don't know, do you want to invite the business operator to come in, or?
Don't they have to like reapply?
I think they
start
got
this
to
all over?
clean up their application. I'm not inclined to even vote for it the way it's presented.
Let's do a withdrawal.
I
without
would
prejudice.
suggest, yes.
That's the best way to
I think it is.
deal with it right now, anyway, and they can figure it out themselves.
May I ask a question? If we do a withdrawal without prejudice, what does it say that he won't just continue doing this business as is and not come back to us?
I would say that they're going to get another complaint.
I mean, we have a gentleman here that will.
Yeah. Initiated this
He's
in the
doing a
first
fine
place.
job.
He doesn't seem inclined to forget.
Yeah, he's not going to forget.
Okay, that's all I care about.
In terms of, I mean, just, I don't know if the board wants to have any discussion sooner or later when this comes back, but what their feelings are. My feeling at this point is this doesn't even qualify for a home-based service business for the reasons about corporate ownership, about who the tenant is, or who the actually is conducting business. I have concerns that this is not mobile marine service. It would be one thing if he was renting a 4-bay garage just to store the boats that were going out every morning, but the
I think
testimony
it's-
concerning deliveries of materials and so on is concerning. We've had testimony that there's actual service being performed in the bays or on property. That would be impermissible, and I'd be a no for that. Seems, and unfortunately, it's looking at the definition of a contractor's yard, it seems that this is more in the definition of a contractor's yard. The problem with the definition is that it's talking about construction contractor or subcontractor as opposed to services or so on.
I think it's time that this growing business sought out a contractor yard to operate out of.
I would agree with you.
We also have questions with employees, and we have questions with vehicles. It's just too many questions here.
There's
So Noreen
contractor
asked,
yards around. It's
have the
time to
owner?
start.
No, we don't need it.
We don't
No,
need the owner.
No.
I think.
But I mean,
they're
should the building department be looking at enforcement
Yeah, that's
here?
what I'm wondering. If we withdraw without prejudice, what happens, you know?
Well, I think he's going to end up doing as I suggested, and they're pretty reasonable. I mean, we'll give him a window of time to.
Well, then let's talk about a window of time versus just.
We don't do enforcement,
We don't do
though.
enforcement.
Yeah, forgot about that.
I mean, it's not like anything's hidden anymore. So just, whatever. He's
Well,
a
we
businessman.
gave that trailer owner a few months ago, X months to remove that trailer, if you remember, on that site that she wasn't supposed to be on. I mean, is that not enforcing?
Putting a timeline on enforcement.
Was it put,
Well, they had already run out of time. They had gone over the year.
Yeah.
And so I think there we had a right.
That was an offer that was kind of brokered between the building department and Noreen, right?
so if we let this go without prejudice, or he withdraws without prejudice, then the abutters have to file or complain to the zoning enforcement officer, who would then make a ruling.
That's the way it works.
Okay.
Well, the other question I've got is that, I believe, and please let me know, the application is for home occupation, correct? I think clearly that's deniable. It's not home occupation.
No.
I don't know if the board has appetite to deny it on those grounds, which would then trigger further review by the building commissioner, I would suggest, given that he's referred them.
But it's also amendable, because he didn't even understand.
Improper application, so he should just allow him to withdraw without prejudice.
That would probably be the
Let the
cleanest
thing
way.
work itself out. I mean, and if it doesn't, you got neighbors that are going to work it out for him.
I would agree with Mark.
Yeah, I do too.
Appreciate your cleanup efforts, sir, but you better get this in order. I don't think this board is going to, would you like, well, through you, Madam Chairman.
Do you want to explain what the withdrawal?
What we're proposing tonight, I think at this point, speaking for myself, if you're asking for a vote this evening, I'll let you know personally, I'm a no. I think that the majority of the board would also deny it based on the evidence and testimony before us. We're giving, through you, Madam Chairman, the opportunity to withdraw the application without prejudice, which would allow you to come back to the board.
You need to come up to the lectern.
You've heard a lot of the questions and concerns. You've certainly heard a lot of testimony about what's been going on. Through your own testimony, you said you haven't been there for a few months. You might want to ask your tenant what's going on. You could reapply and come back under a home-based service business, but looking at the comments, and you can always watch them again on FCTV, those are the questions the board are going to have for you. And those are the questions, the issues that your abutter is certainly going to rise again, and the questions that I think a lot of members of the board are going to have for you. And you'll have to have some answers. So my suggestion, if you would like, is that if you would like to withdraw your application, I think the board would probably allow you to do that without prejudice. If we vote no, it's a no. You can't come back for 2 years.
Yeah, I would like to withdraw.
All right.
Thank you.
Move to allow the applicant to withdraw without prejudice.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of withdrawal without prejudice?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Do you guys understand all that?
It's closed.
Oh, we didn't close.
Voted, we have a quorum.
We didn't close, actually. Go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask.
Just a question.
Go ahead. I'm going to allow it. What the heck?
I'm Selena Leach. I live on 28 Gale Ave, and I actually started it with filing a complaint with the zoning enforcement officer in regards to the property and the business being conducted, that it wasn't zoned as commercial zoning, and the gentleman that's obviously in the 4 garage bays, he's renting them out. He has done all the work and the repairs.
This is inappropriate.
Okay,
I thought
yeah.
it was
So, but
just a
no,
procedural question.
So, yeah, procedure now, where it was withdrawn, do we have to go now to the zoning enforcement officer to file another complaint in order for
Yes.
it to be technically enforced, to tell them what they can and cannot do on the premises? Okay, all right. All right, thank you.
We kind of already told them. I said, we kind of already told
There
them.
it goes, my agenda's put away again. Got it. All right, moving along, guys. We doing any minutes?
We're tabling. You'll get them very soon.
Not to worry. All right, we did blue flag, zoning administrator updates.
I don't know that I have anything to tell you that you haven't already heard.
Really?
Yeah, busy, 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 but we're getting there.
Okay, board discussion? We all have our email for the 25th, I think it is?
25th, 9 a.m.
9 a.m., right.
You get it yet? That's
Can't
a
wait.
Saturday?
Yep.
Can't wait.
You can
Board
get coffee on the
updates?
way.
Yeah, we can wait in line at Dunkin' Donuts.
Board updates, anybody? Good? Future agenda items? We got that thing, and our next meeting is on January 23rd at 6 PM. And now we're calling on Mark.
Motion to adjourn.
There we go. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.